My beautiful, sexy, smart Duel Links players, hello, how are you? We got to talk about Orcust and we got to talk about Tier 0. And what is the best way of doing that other than just pulling up the weekly CTC tier list? That's right. You guys know what's up. If you don't know what the tier list is, it's composed by the top DLE players. We give people points based on how well they perform in main phase, battle phase, damage step, and the better they perform, the more points they get. The people with the highest points end up on the community tier list committee. So if you want to give your opinion on the meta in an official capacity, hey, yo, go play in the tournaments. Feel free. That's how you get in. You can see this is the current CTC, and this is, in their opinion, what the current tier list is. Now, if you go into pretty much any Duel Links, Reddit, Discord, community, wherever, the one thing you will see over and over and over is people arguing if Orcust is currently a Tier 0 deck. And I have a lot of personal opinions on what Tier 0 is and what has become in Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole, but I'm going to leave that part until later in the video. I want to spend this first part of the video going just over the facts and letting my CTC members here speak and give their opinions because, hey, they're the ones that are competing in these tournaments. I think their opinions are super important. Sure, this tier list, whatever, it's fun to look at and make and stuff, but what's very important is their actual opinion on the meta, which we will get into in just a moment. If you're interested in my opinion and my viewpoint, just skip ahead in the video. I'll put my opinion at the very end. Let's get into this for now. Orcust, Tier 1, no surprise there. Tier 2, Speedroid, Odd Eyes, Rockets, 3 very fantastic fun decks. Interestingly enough, Tier 3, DDD, and Sofa Chords, as well as Gandora Orcust being recommended for the Rogue category. We got some spicy comments. Let's see what they are. Ali, yeah, says the only thing that changes every week is the meta is that a new Orcust version is starting to be played. True. Orcust Automat with Guardian Call skill, very strong turn 1 deck. I think Orcust has been tried with all special summon skills. Which is true. I cogged with Orcust Dream Mirror, and then once all the tournaments were like Orcust mirror matches on stream, I started playing different Orcust variations. We tried Axe Raider Orcust. We tried fucking Venus Ball Orcust. It is crazy how many decks you could, as long as you can summon 2 cards, you're good. Wonder how many cards they'll limit and how they will limit it. If they do not kill it completely, Orcust can continue to be played except pure version. If Orcust gone, Hero might return as a Rogue or Tier 3 with Super Poly. Meta will probably be around Rocket, Speedroid, Odd Eyes, and Sofa Chord. Anova says, Orcust still on top of flexibility, tech, hybrid combo picks. Speedroid is just like the new Galaxy Eyes for me. Ooh. Go first with Negate, go second with Saki opening, and try to OTK. Never really thought of Speedroid comparing it to Galaxy Eyes, but my man kind of has a point. You use your skill to make yourself hyper consistent to make a turn 1 Negate board, or just go turn 2 and sack your opponent. Dr. Gazal says, Orcust still dominant in the meta, but we see many decks that can counter it, so the competition between the current meta is insane. M Paradox, who I believe was a recent winner of a big tournament here. To me, it seems like there are no changes right now, except that Speedroids are Tier 3 because of the OP end board with Clear Wing and Crystal Wing and 2 to 3 potential back row cards. And Sofa Chord is now Rogue because it can't deal right now with Orcust, and it's because of that Odd Eyes are better than it because it can protect their Pendulum Scales. And then Call can wipe Sofa Chord Pendulum Scales with Raging. So there you go. He's got a little bit of a different opinion on Sofa Chord. Ohaimi says Orcust is by far the best deck, and ideally something of it gets wrecked in the next ban list. Rocket and Speedroid seem to have the best shot at winning. If they go first, to the point where Orcust needs to have a crazy god hand to compete. Odd Eyes loses to Ibly, Warning Point, Needle Ceiling, and everything else as far as I can tell, but a lot of people are playing it, so maybe I don't know better. Gotta put it Tier 3 to be safe. Ryu Zane, Orcust going to get banned, LOL, but I don't think it is a Tier 0. Shelmy saying hopefully the ban list in 2 weeks can fix the meta, but as far as right now, Orcust seems to be Tier 0, but at least we have some decks like Rocket, Odd Eyes, Speedroid winning the tournaments. Now, Sorry, last one. Tack and Frog says Orc is still the dominant deck. Passing KC, they will be banished for sure, banned, but it will not kill them. They will continue to be in the meta, and Odd Eyes continues to rise to tier 2 due to the ease of leaving strong fields and the ease of cleaning back row. And finally, the Speedroids does not shine. Maybe it will reach tier 3, but it is a deck that does not shine by Orcust. Now, as you can see, a lot of the CTC members are not really in agreement. The actual tier list itself is voted on, so that's what their average votes ended up as. But as you can see, some of them think Orcus tier 0, some of them think Orcus not tier 0. And again, I'll give my opinions towards the end. But before that, I want to very quickly go over some statistics from tournaments of the past month. As you can see, these are the main phase best of 1 tournaments. This is closest to what you'll see in KC Cup, as these are all single elimination best of 1 tournaments, and each winning deck gets 1 point. That means across all of the tournaments, since the last time we had a tier list update, Orcust won 9 of those tournaments on their own, most of those being Orcust mirror matches in the finals. Huge, with Speedroid being able to pick up 3, Rocket 3, Mermail, and Heroes at 1. Going even further and probably more interesting is best of 3 community tournament representation. Orcust at 11, Speedroid at 6, and Odd Eyes at 1. If you ask me, this is basically the meta if you just include Rocket in there somewhere. I guess just Rocket hasn't been popping off as much when it comes to best of 3 tournaments. And speaking of which, let's actually take a look at those best of 3 tournaments. This is Battle Phase 459, which was a $100 tournament, single elimination best of 3 with side deck that we did. You can see Orcust had 47 entries and had 10 overall tops, one of them being an Orcust Odd Eyes variant. This was the top 16, and then even more depressingly was the $500 damage step number 3 that we held, where 90 Orcus entered. This was a double elimination tournament, the most competitive tournament we have in the dueling sphere right now, and boom, 20 Orcus were in the top 32. I've shown these graphics before, but just wanted to bring them up as I kind of give my take on the tier 0 situation that we're in. Now, I think, and just to put it into perspective, I believe that Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game is advancing very rapidly, and I also believe that Orcust at full power, no ban list, is one of the strongest, if not the current strongest deck we've ever gotten in this game, okay? Now, when you look at tier 0s, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a complicated enough game these days where a tier 0 happening is very rare. You have to do something kind of like what happened with Master Duel, where the entire game kind of gets power crept. For like a true tier 0 that can be like mathematically quantified and put up to say, okay, this is a tier 0 deck. Because I think there's also different types of tier 0, and I don't know if there needs to be new terminology created to include that, or what the case may be, but based on both, because a lot of people sit down and be like, oh no, if it's not 65% or whatever, it's not a tier 0, blah blah blah, or some shit like that, right? And I don't think that's a good enough blanket statement for everything, because if you look at the individual matches that are happening, if you look at individual players' side decks, if you look at the individual decks being played, the entire meta is warped around countering Orcust or playing Orcust and then countering other Orcust players with Orcust. You know, you're seeing things like the little electric steel card, which steals machine type monsters, which is better than mind control because it lets you attack with that monster. You're seeing, you know, every single Orcust mirror, turn 1 or game 1 Bandit Keith, game 2 we're switching to Ishizu, baby, you know, like it feels like almost every single card, every single, you know, person is going into these tournaments. How do I avoid Orcust? And even to a lesser degrees, cards like Dingirsu with their damage protection are able to sit there and you know, just completely move cards out of the meta that would otherwise be played, and people go into those tournaments with that mindset included. I think just because decks can do well doesn't mean you're not in a tier 0 meta. I feel like tier 0 metas you have to take more into consideration than just the top rate, which, to be honest, even if you did just look at how often shit tops with Orcust, is pretty damn high. I think once you pass like the 50% point onwards, you can start considering a tier 0 if you have factors such as, the mirror match really comes down to, like just your side deck, because you don't have to side for other decks. The natural strength of your deck can, take out anything that counters you. If every other deck in the game is 100% trying to counter you. The way I look at this current meta is it is tier 0 in a traditional sense, but I guess in the Rise sense, I see it as everyone plays Orcust, or you are playing an anti-meta deck that is Orcust focused. Like we are focused on taking out the Orcust deck player. When I'm playing Speedroids, I'm praying to God I can go first to set up a bunch of negates. That way you can never start your Orcust board, and then hopefully I can Lancia you or something so I can end the game before you can do anything to me. That's kind of my personal take on it. And I know people are going to disagree, and that's fine. It is my opinion. You can let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. I think it's okay to have certain opinions, but I kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of how I look at the metagame. I like to look at other people's opinions, such as the CTC, which, by the way, they update the the tier list weekly, so definitely feel free to go into the Discord and check out their tier list update. Even if I don't make a video about it, they're still updating it on a weekly basis. And I like to look at, recent damage steps and battle phases. And then I think most importantly, you got to remember that this information right here, the power ranking, is super, super, super clean when trying to determine what the meta is, because Orcust does win a disproportionate amount more than the other decks, and I think that is something you have to take into consideration. So you guys let me know down in the comments, what do you think, tier 0 or not? I think so, although I wouldn't say traditional tier 0. I think it's one of those kind of wonky tier 0s, kind of the same way Six Samurai was, where it was like Six Samurai and then a bunch of anti-meta decks. So they still won, but they're only winning because they're countering Six Samurai. But we still consider that tier 0, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So up to you guys. What do you think? I think it needs to be some sort of new term, maybe tier 0.5 or something, where it's like, yes, this deck is warping the entire meta. It's beating everything unless you specifically build to beat it, or your deck is a anti-meta deck. Something like that. I don't know. Maybe we can get some new ideas, come up with something as a community. But there you go, boys. Thank you so much for watching the video. That's all from me. Join the Discord, play in the tournaments. Go, leave comments for the CTC members. I'm sure they're watching this video as well. Maybe they'll respond to you. Peace out, lads.